So when Pete Carroll said we have no intention to trade, is that also potentially telling George Payton what you're offering's not enough? Could that possibly be something like that?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes behind the scenes, and I've been involved in a lot of trades, a lot of big trades, and I was very, as you know, I'm very close with George Payton. We worked together for over 20 plus years, and we did a lot of deals when he was in not only Miami but in Minnesota with me, and just what's going on behind the scenes. And a lot of times, if you're saying that, there's probably not a resolution on what the compensation will be, but it doesn't mean that you're not talking, because if that trade does not happen, and he could always come back and fall on, yeah, we didn't have any intent to trade him, but no one knows what was taking place behind the scenes.
So what do you think of the compensation that Seattle received? There's always a who won the trade conversation. I'll place that in front of you, Rick Spielman.
Well, people can talk about it now, but you won't truly understand what that trade meant. Like, one of the biggest trades we did when I was in Minnesota was the Jared Allen trade. And that ended up working well for us because Jared Allen came in and had a great career. Hopefully he'll get into the Hall of Fame someday. He was one of the all-time best defensive ends in Minnesota Viking history, in my opinion. You look at when we were able to trade Stephon Diggs, and Buffalo got a great player. That was a very hard decision that we had to make, but we were fortunate enough to recover in the draft and get a Justin Jefferson. So it worked out well for both sides. So I think what will happen is you'll have to wait and see how much Russell Wilson elevates the Denver Broncos, because they play in a very tough division with a lot of great quarterbacks in that division. Will he elevate them, get them into the playoffs, and get them to eventually you do a trade like that because you're doing it to win a Super Bowl. But also Seattle, they have to have a plan in place of what are they going to do at quarterback right now. Do they fall in love with potentially one of those guys at the combine that are coming out in the draft this year? There are so much speculation out there, especially from a media perspective. Well, this isn't a strong class. This isn't this isn't that. But on the inside, I know a lot of teams have spent a lot of time with those quarterbacks on board work, on personality, on character traits, on psychological testing. And you watch as this goes along, that one of these quarterbacks or a couple of these quarterbacks are going to come up and start, rising up people's draft boards, especially if they fall in love with them after they go through all these pro days and all the other due diligence they'll do on these guys. And finally, I would say the other point is, what's going to happen with the quarterbacks out there now, and our teams think that, hey, none of these quarterbacks are going to fill what we need, and we're going to have to go out and get an aggressive to get a Jimmy Garoppolo, or depending on what happens with the Deshaun Watson situation. And let's say, all of a sudden some of this legal issues start coming to light, so you actually know what you're going to be dealing with. But teams have to have a quarterback. So when you make a trade like a Russell Wilson, who's such a great player, Denver got a great quarterback that they're expecting them not to get to the playoffs, but eventually get them to the Super Bowl. But I'm sure Seattle has a plan in place as well on what their next step is at that position.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.